Are they thinking about the other person? I've heard this question innumerable times, and maybe if you're the betrayed spouse, you hope that answer will help you feel safe. Maybe if they're not, you'd feel chosen rather than the other person. Or perhaps if you're the betrayed spouse, you believe if they're not thinking about the other person, maybe you can stop thinking about them. But here's what I've observed in my own personal recovery, as well as working with betrayal trauma for over 40 years. In my recovery, when we start there, I didn't think about the other person hardly at all, except when Stephanie would bring the other person up because she was thinking about them all the time. And with few exceptions, I found the betrayed spouse is haunted far more by the memories of the other person than their mate is. And let me explain why. It's really about the difference between two types of memories. Our brains, they're an amazing organ, allowing us to record a lifetime of events in a way that creates personality and basically defines who we are. But are you aware that our brains only have 128 megabytes of memory for an entire lifetime of experiences, which means that a 128 gig flash drive has 1,000 times more memory than our brains do. Memories, ultimately, regular memories, are stored in the hippocampus. And over time, these memories fade. Our brains are designed to basically forget so that more memories can begin to come in. At the same time, the more profound an experience, the stronger the encoding of a memory. For instance, the assassination of Kennedy, the planes flying into the Twin Towers. Those types of memories, they have such a profound impact that they have a very strong encoding. And so we can recall them. And yet, when you recall the Twin Towers, or when, if you're old like me, recall the assassination of Kennedy, does it feel like it happened just yesterday? Or is it, it was in the past? It's somehow faded and it's more distant. You don't feel the same intensity of emotion with a regular memory that you do with a trauma memory. Typically for the wayward spouse, memories surrounding the other person, they're regular memories stored in the hippocampus. And they can choose whether or not to think about them. And even if they do come up, it's not the same. It fades into the past. Traumatic memories, however, are an alternate cognitive entity. It deviates from a regular memory. A study released in November 2023 called Neural Patterns Differentiate Traumatic from Sad Autobiographical Memories in PTSD, conducted by a bunch of institutions, revealed that trauma memories involve the post-cingulate cortex rather than the hippocampus. It doesn't get recorded in the right way. In some ways, it's deviated. And rather than being an autobiographical memory that you can choose to recall if you want, PCC memories are intrusive. They have a sense of nowness. When they come to mind, it feels like it just happened yesterday. And it's about causing you to feel as if it's current. These memories don't fade. They can feel as real 10 years from now as they do on the day of recovery. And they come into your conscious thought, unbidden. They just show up. A slightest trigger can make it happen. And it's the intense shock, betrayal trauma, that overwhelms the brain and makes those memories far more likely to produce PCC memories rather than regular hippocampal memories. When it comes to the question, are they thinking of the other person? One of the most significant factors is the type of memory. Is it a regular memory, like your spouse most likely has, or is it a PCC memory, like the betrayed spouse is more likely to have? For those of you who are betrayed, memories are stored in the PCC and you have little or no choice as to whether or not you think about it. It can come to mind 50 times a day, as you well know. And the intensity of that memory, it still feels the same, like it just happened yesterday, not as if it's 2 years from now. It was interesting. I just did some healing trauma work on a memory I had back in 1968. Can you believe that? 1968. And I still, in 2020, had the exact same feeling in 2020 that I had in 1968. It felt like it had just happened yesterday. That's how you know it's a trauma memory. If you're being tortured by intrusive thoughts of the other person, and if it feels as if it's still happening now, not 3 months ago or 6 months ago, it is easy for you to assume your mate must be having a similar struggle. But in most situations, that's really not the case. And even in cases where someone was very emotionally attached, the memory still fades over time and people begin to gain perspective, especially if they do the individual work or group work necessary to begin to pull away far enough to gain perspective and to shift and convert that memory into something more realistic. It is more than possible to convert a PCC memory to a regular hippocampal memory if you'll do the right type of work. I have worked with multiple people in the past year using emotional transformation therapy and a technique called peripheral eye stimulation, where we're able to simply take the PCC memory and convert it to a regular hippocampal memory, and what has been bothering them, like they feel it every day, suddenly feels like a distant memory, like what they had for breakfast 3 weeks ago. There are other trauma techniques that are incredibly helpful in this. EMDR, internal family systems. Don't assume, however, that a PCC memory is naturally going to become a hippocampal memory. You're going to have to make the choice to do the work. But please know, just because you're experiencing thoughts of the other person doesn't mean that your mate is. Other techniques that are really helpful: involvement with a group of others going through recovery can really help you both emotionally regulate, gain perspective, and convert that PCC memory to a regular memory. Another technique we use at Affair Recovery is Tetris. Every time an intrusive thought comes, play a game of Tetris for 20 minutes within the first 5 hours. What that does is interferes with the way that memory can reconsolidate, and oftentimes it's enough to convert it from a PCC memory into a hippocampal memory. You don't have to live like this. And don't assume that your mate is living like this. The fact is, life's way too short. Why the heck I carried a memory from 1968 to 2020 that bothered me that many years? Now I know I didn't even have to. And it's a blessing to get free of those types of memories. I'm Rick Reynolds at Fair Recovery, and please, if you find this helpful, click the like button. It allows us to reach more people. And finally, leave your comments. If you have questions, just let me know. To healing.